Welcome to the Relational Lives Podcast. I'm Ali.
And I'm Roz.
And we're both psychotherapists.
This is a podcast about the complexities of relationships and how trauma, attachment, and lived experience shape how we love and connect.
Because relationships are rarely simple, and we want to give you the understanding to unlock your relationship's full potential.
If you enjoy this show, please give us a 5-star review and subscribe on whatever platform you are listening on. This also means you'll get notified when new episodes come out.
And we enjoy engaging with our listeners, so do reach out with your comments, or you can email us at relationallives@gmail.com. What if you were to see your relationship like a living thing, like a plant that needs watering, nourishing, tending to, in order for it to flourish? Often we become complacent in relationships and we forget that we need to give it energy, time and attention. In this episode, we're going to be talking about what nourishment a relationship needs to grow and flourish and what can kill it. It's very easy, Roz, isn't it, in a relationship, a long-term relationship, to forget that it needs time and attention and focus and the things that need to be done and to support it.
It's really easy, especially I think when we, might have been together with somebody for some time. I think we get into sort of a habit, don't we, almost, of not attending to it because life sort of takes over and we just get on with our everyday things and think that everything's kind of okay.
And also we've been fed these fairy tales in our childhood, haven't we, that once you get married, it's happily ever after. It's the work is done.
Yeah.
That's
such an interesting message, isn't it? And like you say, it is from childhood.
And movies, I think.
Yeah. And it's something that, ultimately always needs work in some way or another, or attention to keep it, like you said in the introduction, to keep it nourished.
So in this episode, we are going to be talking about what a relationship needs to keep it healthy and what things can end up silently killing the relationship.
Mm-hmm. So we've thought of some things, haven't we, that we think, Ellie, that could be about what feeds the relationship. Mm-hmm. So would it be worth us just kind of thinking of a few things that we thought about?
Yeah, definitely. And these aren't just things we've plucked out of thin air. Some of them have, they've come from research that people much cleverer than us have done in the past.
Yes. And that's what we do, isn't it? We draw on everybody's different experiences. There's a lot of approaches, theories, thoughts out there, and we try and pull them together.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start. So we start with what helps to feed it and nourish it.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things is something that's called emotional attunement.
Don't
what do we mean by
if
that?
You're not into therapy language, because we're going to explain this.
We'll try and make it as human as possible.
Yeah.
So yes, emotional attunement. I think we all kind of understand those two words, but it's kind of what we mean in relation to a relationship, isn't it? Or in communication with another. And I think perhaps what might be helpful is to give an example of what emotional attunement looks like.
Okay.
So we often, as people who follow our podcasts, will know that we often talk about the dishwasher. The dishwasher being sometimes a real bone of contention in relationships.
So, Roz, we're going to do a role play, aren't we, to give an example of emotional attunement and misattunement. Roz is going to be the person that is making the statement, and I'm going to be the person that is either tuning in or not.
Okay. Oh, I've had such a really, really busy day. I'm absolutely exhausted, and this blessed dishwasher is just not going on. I've filled it, I've put everything in it, and it's just not working, and I'm getting more and more frustrated with it.
Oh, right, that appliance guy can come and fix that. Why don't you just contact him? The one that did the washing machine?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's like I've had this really busy day. I don't want to just think about calling the person tomorrow. It's now I need it. I need it to go on now because I need everything clear for tomorrow.
Yeah, well, you can't do it now. It's a Sunday. He's not going to be free now, is he? So you'll have to call him tomorrow.
It's not about the man who's coming for the dishwasher repair.
So this is an example of not attuning to the emotional part of the conversation. And now we're going to do emotional attunement.
Oh, I've had a really, really long day. I'm knackered. And now this blessed dishwasher is just not switching on. And I'm just getting really, really frustrated with it.
Yeah, I can see you're getting frustrated and you must be knackered because you didn't sleep well last night, Roz.
No, I didn't.
I get that.
Yeah.
What can we do? Is there anything I can do to help? Because that sounds tough.
Yeah, could you just come over and have a look? Can you come and do it with me?
Sure, yeah, sure. And if we can't fix it, we might have to call Bob on Monday.
Yeah, but it would be great if we can just have a go, and it'd be brilliant if you could do that with me because I've tried everything, and maybe you'll see something that I haven't.
No problem.
Thank you.
It sounds like it sounds idyllic, doesn't it? It's not always easy to do this, but that's an example of emotional attunement. You're just tuning into that emotional piece of what the person has expressed.
Yeah, tuning into it and also sort of trying to understand, acknowledge what's been going on. It makes such a difference. And of course, like you say, Ali, it's really difficult sometimes to do in the moment, especially if, the partner is tired and had a long day and doesn't want to sort of be thinking about having to connect in that way in that moment.
Yeah.
But it pays off.
Yeah, it does.
Another example, which I think leads in nicely from what we were saying, is when I said it would be really lovely if you could do that with me, sort out the dishwasher with me, is how we come together as a team.
Yeah, coming together to face a problem to get together, isn't it? It's that I think Stan Tapkin calls it the couple bubble, which we might go on to a little bit more later. But this idea that you as a couple are a team that can face things together.
Yeah, and then anything sort of will seem more possible, even the hardest of things. And I think that's even when things are difficult between a couple, that if we're able to face those problems together, if we're able to hear each other and, like we were saying, attune in a way to what the other person's experience might be, it just makes such a difference. You feel like you're not alone.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so the next one is acknowledging when you've got it wrong or hurt the other and offering a genuine apology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this can sometimes be difficult, can't it? Because when you're in the heat of everything, or if your kind of defenses come up because you feel bad, maybe that you've done it wrong, but don't really want to say sorry, it can be really hard, but actually is really important. But I think the order of this, isn't it? It's acknowledging when you've got something wrong or when you've hurt the other. And I think that leads in again to the emotional attunement. It's acknowledging like, yeah, I really hear I hurt you. And then the sorry. And I think that's the order.
We talked about this in our episode on owning your own shit, didn't we?
Yes.
Being able to really fully acknowledge your part in it. And then once you've done that piece, it's being able to apologize and maybe try and do it differently the next time.
Yeah, and the authenticity of the apology, I think, is important because I think sometimes it can feel like there's an apology and then another apology and it's the same kind of behaviour happening. Yeah. And that's just, it dilutes, doesn't it, the experience for the person who's been hurt. The next one we've put down is validation.
So this is, we're going back to that dishwasher example. The validation there was, yeah, I can see why this is difficult for you. You've had a bad night's sleep. You're validating that experience of that person. It doesn't mean that you're experiencing the same thing. It's, you can understand and you can validate, make sense of why that person is feeling like that. Yeah. It's really not about agreeing and having the same experience, is it? It's being able to do that thing where you're stepping into that other person's experience and validating why they may feel like that.
Yeah. And I know that in our therapy, one of the things I know I say a lot when I'm working with couples, excuse me, is it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense why you feel like that. Because when you put the context of something around what's happened, it does often make sense. And for somebody to be able to hear that, then that makes such a difference, I think, for them. They feel heard, listened to, understood, connected with.
Yeah. So it's a really, really useful thing to focus on, I think, in a relationship is it's not just saying it makes sense. It's really trying to understand why that other person, what does make sense about their experience there.
Yeah.
So it could be, oh God, it makes perfect sense that you're pissed off that I forgot to do the online shopping because you were carrying a lot and I forgot. Makes perfect sense that you're wound up.
Yeah. And I'm really sorry that I did. The next one is about how to be separate but together. This is an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think sometimes, Ali, people can feel that they have to be together all the time, that they have to kind of be merged in a way in some respects.
Yeah.
And actually what's really important is to have the sort of connection of the relationship, interdependence, I suppose, and where you can also have the sense of separateness.
Yeah.
And I think this comes from feeling safe and secure in your relationship. If you feel safe and secure, held in mind, thought about, considered, connected with, then it makes it also possible to be separate.
Yeah.
You can also feel like you can have your own identity.
And it's also probably relevant to think about if someone's had historical trauma, difficult childhood, this can sometimes be a difficult thing to do or even get the concept of. So just to hold that in mind. It's not always something that's very easy for people to do. But I suppose I can see it as, we talked about the couple bubble, that there's two individual bubbles in a relationship and they come together and they overlap a bit, don't they? And that middle piece is the couple bubble.
Yeah, rather than like a Venn diagram.
Yeah, rather than two bubbles merging into one, or two separate bubbles never coming together.
And I think what you're saying is key about what people have experienced growing up in their past or in their lives, and any difficult experiences, or also how relationships were modelled growing up, and what your experience as the child within that family might have been.
Yeah.
Because we've talked a lot, haven't we, in the past episodes about attachment and what that experience is. And of course, this can come into this part of separateness, can't it, and togetherness, like you say.
And past relationships as well,
Indeed.
Like
especially if there have been lots of patterns of wounding.
Yeah. So I've put this one on there, therapy or joint reflection. Therapy isn't always necessary, but this sense of coming together as a team that you spoke about earlier, Roz, and being able to face the difficulties in the relationship together as a team, to look at the difficulty as a separate entity, rather than, you're against each other, you're opponents, you're warring.
Yeah, there's a sort of commitment in a way, isn't there, to wanting to try and understand, to wanting to try and figure out things together when things don't necessarily feel that easy, or they're difficulties that you have to face together outside of the relationship. It's how do you come together? How do you reflect on that? But mostly within the relationship, when we're talking about nourishing and thinking about that plant that needs feeding and watering and caring for, it's sort of the balance, isn't it? Where it's not overwatering it or over caring for it, because that could also kill it. So it's that balance, isn't it? I think.
Yeah. That's a good point. You don't want to, well, that's true of a plant, isn't it? You could overwater it and it would die, and you could give it too much fertilizer.
Exactly. So I think that's a really good point, that people don't need to go into therapy, but actually that whole joint reflecting thing is automatically coming together and wanting to make change or things better or understand things between you. We've mentioned this a bit before. It's where the past is coming in as into the relationship, but where it can then also trigger. And when this happens, we've talked, haven't we, in the past about the negative cycle that can go on in our relationships. And so often when we have difficulties, when we come across conflict or distance in our relationships, we can have past experiences that we don't realize sometimes are coming into our reactions and into our responses in that moment, and can get all tangled up, can't it?
And this is where the episode that we did on getting triggered might be useful to go back to.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we can get triggered and old wounds, old pain can come up to the surface and then impact the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really helpful to know those things and to share them with your partner so that they may not take it quite as personally.
Yeah. Really important. And of course there is going to be a certain amount that's going on in the present, isn't it? It's about what part is going on just right now, and this is what we need to deal with, and how much is the past coming into the present.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we've got prioritizing the relationship, which may sound obvious, but it's very, very easy, isn't it, to get lost amongst life stuff, especially if you have children and family around you and jobs. Everything else can become priority and you forget to water the plant of the relationship.
Yeah.
So even that, even thinking, right, this is important. This is definitely one of our priorities we need to focus on. There's going to be other plants that you need to feed. There's going to be, the plant of your work. There's going to be your individual plant, if we're going along that kind of analogy. But this is a plant that you need to prioritize.
Yeah. Because sometimes I think it can be that one person can feel like they are at the bottom of the list, even after the dog. And I think that can be really hard, can't it? Because, of course, all those things, like you say, are there, but it's having the time to, again, reflect and think about how can we prioritize ourselves? What do we need to do amongst our very busy life to be able to find time to connect?
Yeah. Yeah. Date nights can work well, but not if you're really not talking. So you end up going on a date night and then it's just awkward silence, or you don't know what to talk about, or there's all this conflict that you haven't addressed.
Sometimes I think it's in those little moments rather than just a date night, which is sometimes really hard to fit in, or if you're kind of a bit of an island with your family and not having much sort of help with kids or whatever to get that. I think it's in those moments where in the daytime we just tune in or check in. It might be just a text from work, or it might be that if you're working from home, that when you go and make your cup of tea, and if you're both there, you just kind of tune into each other for a moment, or just have a brief chat, just to feel like somewhere you're attending to the relationship.
Yeah. I like the Gottman's thing where they talk about bids for connection. So those can be those little moments, can't they, where someone is, I don't know, looking out the window and saying, oh, look at that bird. And the other can just join them and say, oh, yeah, that's that. Just simple, brief, but it's that just moment of joining.
It's a bit like, in a way, the equivalent of emojis, isn't it, in some respects? You know, that you're kind of having the real life moments of emojis. You know, that sometimes when you don't have the time to reply to somebody on a text or whatever, you know, we do just put an emoji, and that says so much, doesn't it, depending on the emoji we've chosen. And I'm just thinking that's sort of, in a way, a little bit like it, like you say, looking at that bird, that enjoyment of that moment and coming together. You're kind of marking it.
Yeah. Okay. So the last one we've got is Stan Tapkin's idea of a couple bubble. And we've briefly mentioned this, but this idea as a couple, you have your own bubble, and there are things that do not go outside that bubble and things you don't let into that bubble.
Yes. And that can change depending on the relationship and the type of relationship, can't it? Whether it's a polyamorous relationship, whether it's a monogamous relationship. But I think the point of whatever the relationship is how you're talking about those and agreeing on them, and have ring-fenced them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing about that bubble, isn't it? That you know where you stand and you're both in agreement with that.
Yeah. So important.
Mm-hmm.
And also facing things outside of the relationship, you know. Are you standing by each other with that? Have you got each other's back as a couple?
Yeah. I think one of Stan Tatkin's books actually is something like In Each Other's Care, which I think is a nice sort of title. It gives an idea of what we're talking about in a way. We can put some of these links, can't we, in the show notes?
Yes, we can. So, moving on, what are the killers of a relationship? What's the weed killer that we can end up inadvertently putting on our relationship plant?
Yeah, and sometimes not weed killer. Again, it's sometimes just like overwatering or putting too much goodness on it in some respects, that it's sort of smothering it and not letting it find its own way. So I think it's important that it's not just an obvious poison.
Some of these have come from the Gottmans again. The 4 horsemen that they talk about, that the research shows are very clear signs that a relationship isn't going to have a good trajectory. So one of them is when there's contempt in the relationship. And by that, we mean there might be sarcasm, belittling comments, name calling, eye rolling, passive aggression. Those sometimes non-verbal signs, aren't they, that there is this contemptuous feeling between you.
Yeah. And these feel horrible, don't they? I mean, all of the things we're going to talk about here, I don't think feel good. And when you get to that place of contempt, I think, like you say, it really shows that the relationship isn't in a good place, that some serious work needs to be done. Because once we get to contempt, we've lost respect, we've lost kind of any feeling of love in a way. It can feel so removed from connection with that person.
Yeah, because it's the sort of things you wouldn't do with a friend even, would you?
No.
These kinds of...
Exactly. And those behaviours, you know, they're horrible, aren't they? They're name calling, eye rolling, all those things. And they're very difficult. They're very easy sometimes to slip in, aren't they?
Oh, God, yeah.
So,
yeah.
Like that eye rolling thing. I think most people will understand that.
Yeah.
Or have the experience of it.
Yeah.
So perhaps different degrees, it can get to the point of contempt, can't it? But rolling back, there can be little irritations and little...
I guess that's where it's good to catch it early, isn't it? To recognise it quickly before it does become so ingrained and habitual and a normal part of your relationship, which you really, really don't want.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. So the next one is stonewalling. And stonewalling is where you are literally blanking somebody, isn't it? It's like you're turning away completely. And that's so dismissing and discounting of the other. And again, there's going to be a reason why you've got to that position where you're just wanting to sort of almost cut the person off.
Yeah. So it could look like physically removing yourself. It could look like just not responding, going blank, going quiet, not answering messages. Yeah, but basically that stone wall. There is nothing I'm giving you.
You can't get through.
Can't get through, and I'm not coming out either. Defensiveness. Oh, this is such a common one, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it goes back to what we were saying about the nourishment of being able to acknowledge your own stuff and what you've got wrong. This is the opposite, isn't it? It's where you're just getting really defensive, not wanting to do that, and blaming and excusing and explaining. All those ways that we can stop ourselves from really going, actually, a bit of a shit there.
Yeah. And also that kind of bringing up of resentments, past resentments, is almost like this thing that's happened here. I'm then going to bring up all the things that you've done over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And criticism. And this is, something that I think, again, people can probably relate to when somebody's being very, very critical. You know, you always do this. You never help me with this or whatever. There's always some kind of feeling of criticism behind it, as if the other person is getting it wrong.
Finger pointing and yeah. And again, that's really easy for people to slip into, isn't it?
Yes. This one is quite common, isn't it? I think for some people, because it can feel so uncomfortable, but this is ignoring the problems and hoping they will go away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Let's just brush it under the carpet because can't face that. And maybe it'll just fade away and we won't have to deal with that.
Yeah. And you can see why people might want to do that, because if it's really difficult and if past experiences have kind of been difficult dealing with emotions or difficult emotions, then that learning in a way to just shut off from it a little bit, shut down from yourself, shut down from the thing that's happening, not feel it, and then let's just ignore it and carry on with something else instead.
So then you end up in therapy with 10 years worth of stuff under the carpet that needs to be addressed. It's not a good place to be.
Because both parties have been missed, haven't they? So the connection with the other to be able to deal with those issues, but also within yourself. So, that you've got all those emotions that are going on, but you're actually ignoring those probably too, or your own needs that are being ignored too.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the final one we've got is turning outside of the relationship for things that you've both agreed would be in the relationship. Or even things that maybe you didn't agree about, but have been unspoken. So this is why this couple bubble idea is really important, I think, to be clear about. But when someone starts to turn outside of the relationship for something that should really be kept in the relationship, that can be very damaging.
Can you give an example?
Yeah. So, and a good example might be for someone who then starts to turn to someone about the relationship problems, not talking to their partner, but then talking to somebody that they know or somebody at work. And then kind of building that connection around that outside of the relationship. And that should be something that's coming into the relationship.
And that's where that boundary has been crossed, isn't it? And where that can also bring up so many other problems, because when that's found out or known about or felt, it can feel very difficult for the other person. Yeah.
Yeah. And the obvious one is when someone is taking themselves out of the relationship with their sexual needs. I mean, it's just a different way of taking something outside of that couple bubble, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not.
And I think that could be seen in some respects as a sort of an extreme, and it can be, I think, also very small steps that can lead that. Like you say, just even talking to somebody maybe at work saying, oh my God, it's been really difficult at home. And that's breaching something, isn't it? It's betraying in a way, even in a small way. Not that we can't talk to our friendship sometimes, but again, that's perhaps a known thing within the relationship of where that boundary is.
Yeah.
I know you go to this person to get some extra support, and I know that, and that's fine. But when it's not known, or when it's
kept secret,
even if there's nothing sexual or whatever going on, I think it's important. We sometimes hear of emotional affairs, don't we?
Yeah.
Where there's maybe no sex involved, but actually that emotional line has been crossed. And when we're talking about how important emotional attunement is in a relationship, that can feel so betraying.
Sometimes people feel that's worse than if it had been a one-night stand, if there's emotions involved.
Yeah.
And you can understand
I think that's
that.
where lies become the hardest bit, isn't it? It's not necessarily even the actual act. Sometimes it's the lying that gets people. Yeah.
All right. So let's go to our 3 takeaway tips.
3 top takeaway tips.
So, takeaway tip number 1. We'd like you to each individually reflect on the feed and the kill list that we've kind of talked about in this episode, and look at what you might be doing that fits with the examples we have given. Try to be really honest with yourselves, because it can be easy sometimes to think, oh no, I don't do that. But actually, maybe on reflection, perhaps you do. And even if you can't necessarily share that with your partner yet, it's going to be really important you do that self-reflection.
Number 2. Make some time to sit down together and acknowledge what you as individuals could do to improve the relationship and feed this plant that we're talking about. It's really important that when you have this conversation, you are not telling the other what they should do. You are saying, I know this is what I could do better at, or I would like to do more of. So you're owning it rather than telling the other person. It's really important that you do that.
Takeaway tip number 3. If you could each agree that for the next week, you will pick one thing that you're going to work on in terms of the aspect that you've discovered about yourself. For instance, stopping any criticism in its tracks. So if you've noticed that's something that you do, just catch it. So together really work on one thing for a week and see how different that becomes in your relationship when you've addressed that. So Ali, thank you. Good episode. Hopefully people will get a lot from this, because I think so many people will relate to what we've talked about, and hopefully put some words to that and some understanding.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. I'll see you next time.
Yep. Remember to like, subscribe and follow. And we'll see you next time.